battle with the Anti-Man. Now, the reasoning behind the Anti-Man's actions largely remain ambiguous here, in that the statements between the two of them as they do battle indicate that Anti-Man intends a larger end-of-the-world kind of scenario, with Blue Marvel doing what he can to stop him. Furthermore, as he's depicted here, Blue Marvel has all the hallmarks of a traditional hero, and that he refuses to give up in the midst of the battle. He does what he can to keep innocents protected, and he also attempts to talk Anti-Man down from his rampage. However, as a true villain, Anti-Man is the antithesis of Blue Marvel, in that he's unwavering from his goal of presumed genocide and has no regard for the lives of the innocent people around him. Now, the reason I'm drawing your attention to this is that the way Kevin Graveau depicts Blue Marvel here is that he's not an anti-hero blurring the line between right and wrong, and instead, he is, by all standards of measurement, a genuine hero. And so the dichotomies between Blue Marvel and Anti-Man come to a head when we learn that, according to Anti-Man, humanity is a victim of its own viciousness, callousness, and warmongering. While there are good individuals out there, in the mind of Anti-Man, all humans are the same, and that if humanity won't correct the error of its own morality, then he intends to force them to by wiping them all out. Now, all of this again comes to a head as the two battle, with Blue Marvel coming out victorious, but the world also learning that he's a black man. At this point, Graveau begins to move the story away from the basic premise of superheroes battling one another to focusing on the fallout of America learning that the most powerful superhero in the world is an African American. Picking up with Robert McNamara, the real-world Secretary of Defense under President John F. Kennedy during the 1960s, alongside President Kennedy himself and the rest of his defense cabinet, we're provided the background of Blue Marvel in that his name is Adam Brashear. He graduated at the top of his class from Cornell with a PhD in electrical engineering and theoretical physics, with McNamara even going so far as to state that he's not your average colored. From here, the focus switches to his power, where we're told that his actions have saved the world on multiple occasions. In one instance, he knocked a meteor the size of Arkansas off its collision course with Earth. During the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, when the United States and Russia almost went to war over the placement of Soviet nuclear weapons in Cuba, as part of the U.S. naval blockade around Cuba, the USS Enterprise was damaged by a Russian submarine, at which point Blue Marvel carried the ship from the Atlantic back to its port in the Newport News shipyards. These escapades, combined with the fact that he had prevented the premature detonation of the Polaris nuclear ballistics missile during the famous 1962 failure, meant that as far as McNamara was concerned, as the Secretary of Defense, Adam Brashear represents a level of power they can't contain, and that if the fledgling civil rights movement were to rally him to their cause, the result would be a superpowered African American fighting against the government as opposed to fighting on behalf of it. And so what we do here is begin focusing on the backstory of the relationship between Adam Brashear and the Anti-Man by establishing that the two were friends at one point and that both served together in Korea during the Cold War. With Adam Brashear picked up by the Secret Service at the request of the president, on his way to the White House, he flashes back to his time during the war. At some point during his tour with the U.S. Marines, enemy soldiers ambushed their platoon. During the attack, a man named Connor was injured and Adam had intervened, saving his life in the process and running off the enemy soldiers. Now, transitioning back to the war room and President Kennedy, the view of Adam Brashear comes into play when one of the generals refers to him as a porch monkey. Now, the racism that Brashear has experienced over the course of his life is further compounded on when it's revealed that during his time in Korea, he was subjected to the taunts of other soldiers due to the color of his skin. Now, this in addition is compounded on when we learn that during the early 1960s, with the United States on the cusp of social unrest as a result of the civil rights movement, in addition to the racism that he has experienced from white society, black society has also demonstrated a hatred towards him due to the fact that he will not ally himself with the civil rights movement and instead desires to remain a bipartisan hero protecting the. Now, what happens next is extremely important and effectively sets the stage for everything that comes later on. As the president who did more for minorities than any other president in history, Graveau incorporated this into the story by having Kennedy provide an impassioned speech and saying that society could have easily dealt with the racial issue sooner by introducing desegregation, eliminating Jim Crow laws, but this was never done because the status quo was acceptable to white society. However, when a superpowered African American arrived on the scene with the power to not only force the hand of social change, but do so with humanity having no way to stop him, the attitude of white society shifted from acceptance of the status quo to fear that the status quo could be removed and there would be nothing they could do about it. And so seeing a race war looming on the horizon due to Blue Marvel's continued existence as a superhero on Earth, and because the president serves at the pleasure of the American people, Adam Brashear is called into the White House, where President Kennedy speaks with him directly, informing Brashear that his presence as a hero means a potential race war between those who want to keep things as they are and those who want change. Blue Marvel is asked to step down from his role as a superhero. And so while the question from Blue Marvel is how long this is supposed to last, the indication from President Kennedy is that after handing Adam Brashear the Congressional Medal of Freedom, that he's being asked to step down from his life as a superhero indefinitely. With that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end. I know it's a cliffhanger, but what we're going to do is we're going to pick up with the second half of this, and we're going to get into the current events with Tony Stark's search of Blue Marvel and how it is he's able to bring him back and have him become a member of the superhero community again. With that being said, I will catch you guys later. Peace. So continuing our discussion on Marvel's first black superhero, following Adam Brashear stepping down from his role as a Blue Marvel at the request of the president, rather than jump...
Pack your bags, people!
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. Again, you guys know that I am an avid Mary J. Blige fan. I love her to death. I have been very critical of Mary in the blonde weaves as of late. But she's a cultural icon. I believe she's a very beautiful woman, a very talented woman. I love Mary J so much. I got a lot of her albums still on CDs, some on cassette. That's how old I am. But you know what? She was recently on a particular podcast with the Daily Pop on Entertainment Today, and she was asked about, what's next for her. She experienced a career rebound after her divorce from Mr. Kendu Isaac. She was at the Super Bowl in LA. She really rocked it. And they, being 51 years old, Mr. Justin Sylvester asked her if she regretted not being a mother. And Mary J says this: "I have nieces and nephews forever, and I'm always watching how people are scrambling for babysitters. I don't want to go through that. I like my freedom to go and move to do what I want to do. I don't want to have to tend to someone all the time." Now, let me just talk about this because I know that you guys are thinking I'm gonna heavily criticize her for that, and a part of that could be that Mary J. Blige has never been able to really attract the kind of guy that she should have in her life. She was with Casey. We all know he was a wreck, although a very talented singer. Kendu Isaacs. Really, Mary J. Blige is a career woman, okay? She wanted to take her career to the highest level. She was never going to be able to have a man as an alpha male in her life.
EA Sports coverage of the NFL brings us to the heart of Texas and the very wonderful AT&T Stadium at Arlington. Obviously, they do everything big here in Dallas, and the introduction of the Cowboys, no exception. They're set for football and Big D, as their guys will do battle with the Cleveland Browns.
And I agree.
Here's the former Illini kicker Chase McLaughlin to get us started. And we are underway from AT&T Stadium. And that'll carry over.
I know some guys are going to think that every woman has to have kids and things like that. No, they don't. You're going to need some women to put their careers first. Every woman doesn't want to be a wife or have children. I'm okay with it. The problem that I have is when people have the same mindset of Mary J. and believing that they can do everything by themselves. Then they have kids, and then you can't take care of them. Then those kids become a problem on your own family. We all know about leaving the kids over at grandmama and them house and stuff like that. Then those kids, you have to work all the time, and then those kids end up, in gangs. Those kids end up sometimes underperforming. Those kids end up with no resources, and then the problem continues. If you look at a lot of these Atlanta street interviews I've been doing, that's pretty much what you see here, is a lot of homelessness going on. You see a lot of ladies who were born into broken homes. There was no man there. No man ever thought about being there. And that's the problem. And we actually got to think about this. Black women who take Mary J. Blige's stance, or I never want to be a mother, or I never want to be a wife. Listen, as long as they have that position, and they do it by themselves, I don't have a problem. If you never want to have kids,
he's going to get a good gain of 9 here up to...
The problem that I'm going to have is that you take that position and then you complain about something else. Oh, well, I never wanted to have kids because none of these guys are worth anything. Oh, I never wanted to get married because all these dudes was playing. See, you start hearing that kind of stuff too. And the reality is that a lot of women who desire guys and want to have kids with a guy, you think that a guy is going to adjust to your life. And I want to just say this with
maybe a good spot to take a shot.
Started nodding off already.
It was never anybody like Jay-Z. It was never anybody like Nas.
Oh, my fault. Got that by luck.
He winds up giving a yard back there. Now it's 3rd and 2.
Well, I would have figured after the 9-yard run on the previous play, getting one more yard wouldn't have been much of a problem. But apparently it was, and now it's 3rd down.
Were guys who were, doing less with Stelton there.
They'll try and run for it.
A lot of people want to have a guy's baby that's doing less Stelton there.
Defense had a chance to get off the field here in the opening drive, couldn't do it.
I know that we go to these meetings with coaches, and sometimes maybe we can get, a little bit numb because they're always going to talk about how important 3rd down is. Right? You got offense and defense. In this case, one capitalized, and the others, you said, had a chance to get off the field and didn't get it done.
Because we got a lot of people in our community that are having kids, and the kids just don't do very well. You have women that, it's just me and my babies, us against the world. And go look at Camden, New Jersey. You tell me how that's turning out.
Now with the play clock about to expire, we get a whistle and a timeout. They'll have 2 remaining as we step aside here in this first quarter.
Los Angeles have no intention of ever being married. No intention of their kids even having a husband. And for a lot of people, I think it's better to, if you're not going to go all the way, don't put these kids through that kind of stuff. And it's just not right. The dad's not going to be there. The kid's not going to be there. There's stories of women who actually lose their kids.
This will leave them a yard short. Nice pickup of 9 yards on first down.
Right now. There's a story where
you often say that sort of opens the playbook now, 2nd and short. What do you think, early shot here?
I like where you're going. Obviously, we've been together for a while because you know me. I want to take that shot early and loosen things up.
And I actually got respect for ladies who understand, listen, but where I am in my life are based on who I can attract towards me. Hey, I have nieces and nephews. Maybe
shit, nodded off again.
On 2nd down, Italian into enemy territory just across midfield.
We tighten up.
They did tell us they wanted to establish the ground game early, didn't they?
They did in a small sample size that we've seen so far. They're pretty good.
Get this dub real quick.
They strung together a couple of first downs, establish what they wanted, the running game, and guess what? They also got their lead guy running it pretty well, too.
Many of us have grown up because we had an aunt that came in and
he's going to be
met
at the line of scrimmage and taken down.
An aunt that raised us as a
No gain on the play there, 2nd down.
And maybe the aunt couldn't have kids or something like that. Maybe they wanted it, just couldn't have. That don't mean that she loves them other. That don't mean that Mary J. Blige can't have a positive effect on her.
Pressure gets to him that time, and he's going to go down.
I have a problem
Jadeveon Clowney showing the explosiveness on the sack. That sack, Charles, just looked like a case where a speedy defensive end is a little bit quicker than the offensive tackle.
Yeah, it makes it difficult for a tackle to determine what exactly to do. Do you do the kick slide and try and get back in the pocket and meet him there? Do you meet him on the line of scrimmage where they call a quick set? In any event, right now, he's having his troubles.
He'll fire deep downfield for the layup. And that is incomplete.
Nice play there for his incompletion. And to me, one thing's for sure. When you're the underdogs and you're playing on the road, you absolutely have to get takeaways. You've got to get the ball from them.
Yeah, win that turnover battle, going to be key. They didn't get one there, but you get the feeling they keep making plays like that, they might just get a few.
Yeah, once you get one, defensive teams think they come in bunches.
On fourth down, here's Brian Anger now to kick this one away. He gets us away. It's a good one. Drawing toward the sidelines. And this one's out of bounds. Should be inside the 10, I think it is. At the 6-yard line.
Let's go old school there. That's absolutely a great coffin corner punt. Someone's put some time in working on that, hasn't it?
Seems like every year these guys get better and better. It's amazing how they can command that football through the air.
Yeah, they used to actually practice with hula hoops where they place them and try and put them there. Now a lot of guys use barrels on the sidelines to try and put the football in one.
Down up past the 15. Well, one unit I know you want to watch is that offensive line. If they keep clearing holes like that, it could be a long night defensively.
No doubt about it, because when they are in sync, as we're seeing so far, when that continuity is there and you can see that they're playing off of each other while controlling the defensive front linebackers, you're exactly right. It could be a very long night for the defense because someone's going to run for some big yardage.
For Nick Chubb, and not a whole lot of room to operate there on the first down run. He gets maybe 3.
Look, all any running back wants is a little bit of room, a little bit of space in order to maneuver. But he also understands how difficult it is for his offensive line up front. So if they give him any space, he realizes his job to make more out of it than what they give him. Picks up 3 on that carry.
Origins explore. DNA is perhaps the oldest and most confounding data point to exist on planet Earth. Entire genetic structures are encoded within the very cells that prevent something entirely different. Every living species
on
is
second and 7, Mayfield. He rifles one
that's
intercepted. Picked up near the 29. And he takes this one back into the end zone. And the Cowboys defense has a touchdown.
That was a nice catch, and not by the guy you thought it was going to be. How about the defender turning into an offensive player as soon as the ball hits his hands, and off he goes, off to the races, and into the end zone.
The reason behind the emergence of these abominable appendages is a simple but rare biological process called atavism. Simply put, atavism is a modification of the biological structure that reinvigorates an ancestral genetic trait that had previously been lost to evolution. It's why you find axolotl with webbed feet, dogs with blue claws, and one of the most violently bluish reptilian humanoids to lurk in the sewers of
so they throw the pick 6, they'll get another shot at it now, as this one's in the air.
5-23, and Batman
this taken in at the goal line.
And
he will make it to the 20-yard line and no further.
Physically imposing challenge that Bruce Wayne had ever faced up to that point. And as the years have gone by, his humanity isn't the only thing he's lost. Let's take a look at the backstory of this terrifying, mutated brute who almost broke Batman's back. These are Killer Croc's origins explored. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request.
The Browns drive about to get started.
Subscribing to our channel. This is a small clip for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you.
They start on the ground with Nick Chubb. And he's brought down at the 22 after a gain of 2, and it brings up second down.
Oh, that's a real nice job there by the defensive front. They just engaged and held their ground. But how about the guy who made the play? We often talked about whether they take a good first step or not. Many times you just don't take any step. Just get your feet moving, get your body going. And then once he made the read, he was able to make the play.
The last run good for 2. Here's second and 8.
Which managed to unlock the reptilian genome.
Mayfield on play action.
It gave him the big, scaly eye.
Got an open man. That's David Njoku, the tight end. And this will go as a gain of 7 as he gets it to the 30-yard line. Not a big window to throw. Coverage wasn't too bad there.
Yeah, they had him under wraps pretty well, but somehow able to muscle his way open and catch the ball.
Calling him names like Lizard
3rd and inches, and they've got some extra beef up front. 3 tight ends. And they'll let their fullback try and push the pile. And down he goes, but he takes it up to the 40.
I know a lot of times we like to put players in certain boxes. He does this and he does that. But this guy, he can do a little bit of everything. He's not just a lead blocker or a guy who protects the passer. Handing the ball, he might want to get out of the way.
And able to rip off a big chunk of yardage before being dropped inside the 40. After one, 7-0 on EA Sports.
Over time, Waylon Jones forgot what made him so scared to be accepted when he could simply make them bow down to his whims. The now sociopathic Jones celebrated his 18th birthday by killing an inmate at his prison home and becoming a cold-blooded murderer. Even though he had just killed a man, Jones was let out on parole, a decision his
So from Cowboy territory now, here's 1st and 10 at the 39-yard line. They run, Chubb. And he's taken down inside the 30. 49 yards rushing for him now, and he's carried the ball just 5 times.
A big hole there. How about him handling the point of attack? Just positioning himself so that run could go right off of his backside and deep into the secondary.
Has remained consistent across every incarnation of Waylon Jones. The new 52 added another layer of tragedy and violence to his backstory by revealing that despite his monstrous appearance, Jones was, at his core, a nice, gentle, and compassionate person. He would avoid conflict if he could afford it.
On 1st down, they'll run with Chubb. And only a yard this time as he's taken down right around the 26.
Yeah, things were pretty stacked up there in the middle of the line. A lot of bodies, not much space. I think ultimately he was fortunate to get anything out of that run.
Stupidity of his subsequent crime spree, he vows to become the best of both worlds, combining his brawn with brains to become the ultimate crime lord of Gotham City.
He was getting closer. And I threw a rock at him.
Unleash the
now
beast.
It's 2nd and 9.
Most notable appearances. Batman mission number 357 is notable for 2 reasons. The introduction of
They'll try to throw here. Mayfield.
Robin Jason Todd.
It's caught by Hooper. They'll head out of bounds inside the 10. Mark him down at the 9.
I tell you what, it looks like he's shaking off that pick 6 just fine. It's not just defensive backs that have to have short memories. Quarterbacks utilize that as well. A much more confident throw right there.
So 1st and goal and a chance to make amends for the earlier pick 6. They'll run with Chubb. A nice display of power, but it only takes him to the 7. He's dropped there. Only a yard on the pickup there. 2nd and goal. Defensively, pretty good start there with their backs against the wall.
That's a win for the stop troops right there. And if I'm them, I get a little bolder now. They won the first battle. Keep coming after them, put the pressure on them.
Future retcons have since established Two-Face as the murderer of Terrence parents. After failing to get a firm grasp on crime in Gotham City,
they'll try again with Chubb. And he's able to get it down to the 2-yard line. It'll be a gain of 5, and it's going to set up a 3rd and goal. This is kind of one of those in-between plays here, Charles, on 3rd and goal from the 2 or the 3 in that area. What do you dial up?
Something quick-hitting. You don't have the time for something that develops slowly. It's got to be right at them if you're going to run the football. If you're going to throw it, something quick, get it out of your hands in a hurry.
In terms of pure power, Waylon Jones' mutations might have been enough to stand up to Bane. But thanks to years of abusing Venom,
3rd and goal from the 2, and they're going with a jumbo set offensively.
Effortlessly break Waylon's arms and send him
Chubb.
And
did he break the plane? Yes, he did. Touchdown. Nick Chubb taking it in from 2 yards out, and the Browns are within an extra point of tying this thing up.
He goes on a mindless rampage after escaping from Arkham and has to be fully subdued.
Extra point on the upright a bit, but he gets it to go. And we are tied here in the second quarter.
This virus always came back with an explosive bang. Kronk was implanted with a mind-controlled short man.
So all even at 7 now as they kick it away.
Is an unstoppable enforcer. An additional side effect of the chip
this is Tony Pollard.
Unaware of the actions he commits.
And he won't get this to the 20-yard line as he's down at the 19.
Experience that he began cannibalizing himself in order to get rid of the chip. After ridding himself of its influence, he retreated to the sewers, vowing revenge on both Batman and Black Mask. During his time dwelling in the literal underground of Gotham City, Jones realized that ruling doesn't necessitate visual authority. He could just as well rule over Gotham from his personal kingdom down in the sewers. He began saving helpless victims of crime.
About set for this next drive by the Cowboys offense. They punted last time they had it. What steps, Charles, do you think they have to take to make sure they don't do that again?
Let's just go to the football. 101, the trade expression 101. Win first down. Make 5, 6, 7 yards on first down and make it a 2nd and 3, 2nd and manageable. Keep accumulating first downs that way. Keep moving the football. You don't want to get behind the sticks because then the defense has the advantage.
He became King Kronk. This marked the start of a period where Kronk transitioned into more of an anti-hero role.
From the 32 now, here's 1st and 10.
Jones found himself helping people once again as part of Amanda Waller's Task Force X. He started becoming
they keep on the ground without him. And nothing much materializing there on the first down run. He'll get a couple, and that's it.
Well, any lane that might have been open there was closed pretty quickly, and that was because the defensive front, they won that battle at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage. They used great leverage, held their spot, and stacked him up.
2nd and 8 coming up.
The threat that Killer Kronk poses to society. What makes Killer Kronk so dangerous? Over the years, Kronk has floated about on the character relevancy rankings.
They'll run left
going
with
from
Pollard.
one of the leading racketeers of Gotham City to a sewer
Pollard now a first down and more. And he takes it across the 50 to 46-yard line. Although his reputation as a speedy runner precedes him, it's always fun to watch him work.
It is eye-opening, isn't it? Because when you see him get the ball and just go, in addition to that speed, it helps out his blockers. They don't have to hold blocks for long because he's just going to speed right past them.
They're so durable that they make it virtually immune.
So in 1st and 10 upcoming from Browns territory now at the 46.
And outmaneuvering his opponents like they're fishes out of water. While those things come
They'll run with Pollard.
Target, they become ancillary.
And this time the yards won't come so easy as they'll in fact tackle him behind the line. They'll lose a yard there, and it's 2nd and 11.
I know that speed is the hallmark of today's NFL game, but the key to good rushing defense is still having your linebackers set the
As we
edge.
mentioned already, before Bane came into the picture, it was Killer Kronk, whose life's mission was to break Batman's back. He nearly succeeded and didn't need dope to do it either. Kronk also possesses a healing factor that gives Wolverine a run for his money. Wayland is so confident.
We remind you that coming up in 2 minutes' time, we'll hand you off to Orlando, where Jonathan Coachman will have highlights and analysis of this first half of action.
Talk about hardcore. After getting injected,
and this one is so slow in developing as he's maybe getting back into the line of scrimmage, but not much more than that. Now the Browns will use the first of their 3 timeouts. So as they take it over, we step aside.
To consume warm-blooded flesh. And when he gives in, the bodies pile up like so many flies.
He's got the strongest jaws of any animal around.
Threatening alternate versions of Killer Kronk in various forms of media. Being one of the most iconic villains in Batman's rogue gallery, Killer Kronk has made several appearances across various forms of media, especially animated TV shows. Killer Kronk appears as one of the villains in Batman.
That will be incomplete.
Had the right idea there, trying to throw it to the sideline, but he let it just a little bit too much, trying to get it out to his receiver. Ends up falling to the ground incomplete.
He filed his front teeth into points to complement the reptilian appearance of his skin and becomes a circus performer. Later, Waylon Jones, now called Killer Kronk,
Dak and the offense still out there. They are going to go for it.
After getting injected with the fear toxin by Scarecrow, Kronk goes on an extended rampage that sees him in a drawn-out battle with a rattled Bruce Wayne.
And it is knocked away in the middle of the field and incomplete. Mike McCarthy took the gamble, didn't pay off. And this Browns defense stands tall.
captured by Talia al Ghul and has the mutagen extracted from his blood, nearly killing him. Batman agrees to help him after he names Langstrom as the mutagen's creator, but not before Batman rips off his damaged tail to make him talk.
The Browns drive about to get started, and now last drive so successful with the ground game ending in a touchdown. Do you stick with that formula?
That would be the number one thing you would look at, but so many guys now would look at it and say, we got them set up so well for play action, now's the time to take a shot. But you know, there was a big-time coach in the state of Ohio who once said, if you throw the ball, if you put it in the air, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. He would have kept it on the ground.
Ahead of the chains now, 2nd and 2.
He makes his return as one of the 8 assassins hired by Black Mask to take out Batman.
Micah Parsons, he's the one that got home and takes him down for a loss of 9.
Good working out, Croc. While Killer Croc is one of the best Batman villains, his detractors will always label him as a Kurt Connors knockoff, but we'd argue that Killer Croc is a far more layered
Mayfield in this Browns offense staring at a 3rd and long now after the sack.
Started his comic book journey as a cold-hearted, calculating mob boss who used his biological defects.
And that is taken in by Njoku.
Takes
almost all the way to the 30.
From
the 32 now, here's 1st and 10.
Compelling black hole from conflicting, terrifying emotions that can only manifest itself.
Working out of the gun, Mayfield. And he's going to go down. They get to him back at the 40. Now the Browns signal for the 2nd of their timeouts as they stop it here with just under 40 ticks to go in this first half. Back quite a ways here, facing 2nd and 19.
Is toyed with like a cat playing with a ball of yarn who can blame him for giving in to his animalistic mother. Killer Croc has been immortalized in comic book history as one of the more empathetic members of Batman's
another try after the first down sack. Mayfield. Rifles one that's going to be intercepted. Picked up by Trayvon Diggs. And the Cowboys are going to have the football here at their own 35-yard line. So that time the pressure got home just as he was releasing the football and caused the pick.
And what it did was it disrupted that fragile balance of the mechanics of throwing the football. You know, from the footwork to being able to actually throw it downfield. If one piece of the puzzle gets disrupted, it affects the entire chance of success.
The Dallas offense here set to begin the drive.
This is the comic story channel.
In trouble, he's taken down. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. What a play by him. That's going to go as a loss of 13. And now this throw incomplete, and that is how this first half will come to an end. That's it for the first half. 2 more quarters to go. And plenty more to see after the break.
Both teams making their final preparations for the second half of action. So with that, let's get you back out to Arlington, where we rejoin Brandon and Charles.
And we welcome you back live now inside the booth alongside Charles Davis. I'm Brandon Gunn, set and ready to rock for the 3rd quarter. Set and ready to go for the second half. 1 touchdown apiece, 7-7 our score. Donovan Peoples-Jones now from the end zone. And that decision to bring it out ends up not being a good one. Cost him about 5 yards as he's tackled at the 20.
There's a couple of Spider-Woman ones because she didn't really go back to fight the King in Black, and we also missed out on the second Planet of the Symbiotes. But this video contains everything else, as far as I'm aware, in the order that Marvel told us to read the series.
The Browns drive about to get started. It's a tie football game here. What do you think, Charles, the message was at halftime?
Well, I think that they probably just looked at things and said, unfortunately, this is a tie game. No need to panic, no need to change a whole lot. We didn't play anything close to our best in the first half. So we don't have to go out and win one for the giver. Let's just go out and play our best football and win one for us.
Cap, it's me, it's time. He radios the Avengers, leaping off of the building, catching himself on a web line as Venom wraps around him. Across the city, the rest of the Avengers are getting the alert.
Now they'll come up on 2nd and 12.
Venom crosses the city, slipping through a window into a darkened room. Eddie Moore's back staring down at his sleeping
pressure comes and down goes Baker Mayfield. They push him back 8 yards as Eddie tries second down.
But the boy interrupts.
We are seeing two really confident defenses imposing their will on these offenses.
Eddie's eyes
absolutely going toe for toe. Just curious if one of these offenses can wake up a little bit.
Captain America has taken charge.
Something that can pop, something big to knock them back on their heels.
Ground teams, evacuation ships are mobilizing to drop sites as we speak. We are
After the sack, they come up now,
let's get
third
meat,
and long.
shall we?
Yeah, wouldn't be
Cap
surprised
says
to see
over the
them
radio.
run the ball here. Just try and get
Rogers
some
turns to Tony,
space.
asking where they're at. But
Now
Tony
on
shakes his
third
head,
and long,
unable
they'll
to
look
track
to
Melvin's
throw.
board since they don't have deep signatures. But the
Let's
trick
get
over
the hands down in people's
the
jaws.
emotions and screams that show
Pick up at
that all
16,
the
but they'll
retreat
remain
and
short of the
scholarships have been
marker,
turned
and
into
it's
floating
fourth down.
bombs.
One of the
You
selling
just like
points of
turning
the
into the
in-route
bombs.
is against a
Cap
quarterback,
knows
a
it was
really
smile.
nice
And
sight
Captain
line to
Martin
his
suddenly
receiver,
shouts to them,
and
pointing at
almost
the
on a
horse
direct
that had
shot,
arrived.
able to throw the
The
ball to the
stars in
middle
the
of the
sky
field
have
and
almost
have a great
blacked
chance of
out due to
success
the large
as they
number
did
of
on that
injuries.
play.
We're going to need a bigger bomb, she tells them
On
all.
fourth down,
The
the
Symbiote
punt team
Dragons
is
will
hot
reach
as
the
this
field
is
with
set
destroyed
away.
ships, cutting their way through them quickly.
Lamb to
Fire!
return it.
Tony shouts,
And
dead
he
ends
gets
in
this up to the
free field,
34
and
out of
destroying the
bounds
Dragons.
there.
Meanwhile, in New York,
42-yard
Eddie almost
punt,
collapses.
6
The field
on
of
the
the
return.
Symbiote creatures
And the
dying. But he
Cowboys will
knows
take
that
over
it
the
didn't
football
work.
with a
It barely
first
slowed
and
them
10.
down. Tony's cheers stop as he looks back at the screams, but Cap isn't waiting. He runs out of the room. All teams move. Move! This is not a drill, people. This is it. He shouts over the comms. In the skies over the world, it darkens as the symbiote dragons
Set for
descend.
this
And
next
below
drive by the
city,
Cowboys
Dylan tries to argue
offense.
as Eddie
Their
opens up the
defense
safe
has
room.
done the
He
job.
tries
Now
to
it's the
explain that he can
offense's
help, but
turn
finally
as they
Eddie
got it
snaps him.
first and 10.
That's enough.
And he
I
can
made
only
you a
manage to
promise.
get a
I
couple.
told you that I'd protect you
Second
no
and
matter
8
what.
coming up.
He yells at him, and Eddie
They know
explains
that
that this
old
is his fight.
expression, it's not my night.
You don't deserve the
It
things that
hasn't
have
been
passed on to
his
you.
so far.
He
I
tells
don't
us
know if the
something
legs are a little bit heavy.
He tells Dylan that he's going to
having
end
to
it.
hang
He
out
pushes
all
him into
day
the
and
safe
play
room.
doesn't
But
exactly
before he
play
can
to your
close the door,
advantage, but
Dylan
it's been
looks
a
at his
tough
phone
go for
one
him.
last time.
Every time he looks
Dad,
up,
please
somebody's
come
there
back.
defensively.
I
That
love
was
you,
the
son.
same case on
Eddie
that
tells the
play.
boy, closing the
And
door,
it's
and
thrown
Eddie stands there.
complete.
His columns and
Defender
Cap
all
tells
over
him,
him that
"We're
time,
going
but
to
it's going to
plan B."
lead to third
Across
down.
the city, the Dragons have
We saw
descended,
this a lot in
covering
the
the
first
buildings
half, and
in
it continues.
symbiotic
These
boots.
receivers
Cap
just not
leads
able to
the
get
ground
much
team.
separation.
Heroes of
So that means they have to win the
powers to
50-50
combat
balls.
the
They've got to
threat.
go
As
up with
Cap
the
fights
defender
to protect a
and
young
find a
boy,
way to
he
start
asks
coming down
Tony
with
if they've got
And this
any
time,
word from
contact
Thor.
Good shit.
It's not looking good down here, Fred.
And that is
Nothing yet, Fred.
incomplete.
Big gun just
But
entered
pressure
orbit now.
there
Shouldn't
on
be long,
third down,
Tony responds.
forcing the
We need
errant
backup now,
pass.
Tony.
Fourth
Cap
down
yells,
coming
and
up.
suddenly there's a voice in their minds apologizing for the intrusion.
Here's Brian
This is
Anger
Charles
now,
Xavier. If you
as he'll
require
kick it
backup,
away
please
for the
stand
second
by.
time.
My X-Men have arrived. Charles tells them that the mules
And he
have
gets it
flood
away,
out of
a
the Krakoan
directional
gate,
kick going toward
joining
the
the battle
sideline.
against the
And the
symbiotic
punt over
dragons.
the side, in
Xavier
the
smiles,
air,
telling
and
him
the
that he
spot will
knows
be
that not
inside
having
the
a god of thunder is an
35.
issue. But I might suggest a goddess, he says. With lightning crackling, a storm arrives, lashing out of the dragons all around her. Beneath the city, Venom swings through the sewer systems, heading for the Carnage Spire that was left beneath the city. Eddie hopes to use it to control the horde of dragons if the others can sever their connection to Null. Eddie sits, allowing the Spire to connect with his mind and
The
connect
Browns
into the
drive
mind.
about to get
Let's
started.
go.
The last
He
couple of
growls, and
drives have
the
ended in
horde
punts.
is winning.
Maybe the
Doctor
crowd
Strange's
lines up.
magic
You're a
can only hold him
defensive
back for
guy.
so
You're
long.
okay
The
with
storm
a
is
couple
being
of punt
overwhelmed.
drives.
But
Listen,
Eddie
I'm the guy
connects,
that
hoping
loves
to
a
help
0-0
the
pitch
Fear
game.
suddenly fills his eyes and he
In
sees the
baseball,
truth.
I can handle that
Screaming
going
over
into the
radio,
seventh
getting
inning.
others to fall
I think
back.
the crowd, though,
It's
they
not
want to
just
see a little bit
dragons.
more
It's not
excitement.
just Null.
Let's see if someone
This
can
is how
bring
it
something
started.
free on
Before
offense and
the
get going.
symbiotes, before the dragons.
Offense at a premium the
Null's
last
first
two
enemies were the
drives.
Celestials. And it looks like he settled the score with them. Eddie yells. Out in the city, the heroes look up to see the colossal cosmic beings descending through the cloud of
They
creatures.
go play
Their
action.
bodies now covered in Null's
And the
symbiotic
Cowboys
beings.
pressure
The
gets
Celestials
there.
land
It's
before the
time for
bottom
the
of
sack.
With their massive bodies,
Micah
one of them
Parsons
opens her
bringing the
dark
pressure
cloud
yet
within
again.
him.
That's his third
I
sack
see
here
that my
tonight.
reputation precedes me, so I won't waste your time. I'm going to kill your world. Null simply says as he steps out. The symbiotes create stairs for him to walk down, and he tells them to bring him Brock. You'll make the world's destruction quick and painless. Cap orders for everyone to fall back as Null leaps into the air on his wings. wings,
Pass
flying
protection
down. He
has been a
floats
problem
over the
all
heroes
night
of
long
Earth.
as they come
And
out
who are you
facing
supposed to
second
be?
in a bundle.
Mel asks with a twisted smile.
Another try after the first down set. And pressure coming, and they got it once again. They push him back 8 yards and
With the
time
last
on
big guys like
second
you see.
down.
Today,
they were trying to set up a screen there, but that one just too
he's
slow in developing.
Yeah, too slow in developing and well read because that ends up being a bad play for the quarterback. When he's got no blocking in front of him, his guys are just going to let defenders go, and they're coming for him. So if it's not there, you just got to throw the ball until the running back speed.
Century descends from space. He explodes through one of the Celestials, bringing out and grabbing a screaming and
for Mayfield.
up into the air.
He's going to go for a big play downfield.
What?
He begins to grin, the fear fills his eyes, and reaches out, grabbing it.
A big play that time through the air. 36 yards.
I'm not sure how this drive's going to end, but how about the way they flip field position there? A nice attacking play. They picked up a heck of a chunk of yardage.
So now then, the big play has him all the way inside the 30 now, 1st and 10.
God of these symbiotes, darkness aside of you.
Mayfield hands it off to Chubb.
To me and now.
And the result here, a pickup of 8. Leaves him with 2 to go on 2nd down. 8 yards the tally on that 1st down run. Here's 2nd and 2. They run it again with Chubb.
Oh, ran right past him. Good looking out. Good looking out.
All the way to the 2-yard line there before crossing over out of bounds. 82 yards for him on the ground now. He has been a tough man to bring down all
I
night.
hope to the mighty earth would have proven more worthy of a battle. Alas, you will fall like all the others. I met your armies, little ones. Now meet mine.
Null raises his hand, and the symbiote oozes that are covering the ground begin to react. They reach up, wrapping up our heroes, trapping them, pulling them
They'll give
under
it to
the
Chubb.
darkness.
And he takes this one in for a Brown score. Nick Chubb, his second touchdown of the night. And the Browns have taken the lead.
No more light. Isn't this better?
No whispers.
Extra point by McLaughlin is up and good. And that makes the score 14-7.
The null turns, and the symbiotes become huge, wrapping around the buildings, reaching out for Storm.
Following the touchdown, here's McLaughlin to kick
And the
off.
command center, Tony yells for Eddie. We're going to try something. We're going to give him what he wants. Eddie tells Stark. Tony is trying to
fuck.
not to give in, but Eddie cuts him off, telling him
He brought down here inside the 20. Good coverage as he's dropped at the 17.
Though the symbiont is hesitant, it agrees.
Let's go, unranked.
Venom growls, and above, Null turns with a smile. Hello, little one.
The Dallas offense here set to begin the drive.
The ceiling above Eddie
And a tight
explodes with
game after
massive fist
punting last
reaching down,
time.
plucking
Let's see if
him
they
out
can
of
get
Stewart.
something going
and
on
as
this
it reaches
drive.
up, it flings him into the
As
air.
they head to the field now,
By Null
with the
himself.
game this close, you got to feel there's a sense of urgency for them going on offense right now. But they have to do it without letting panic creep in and affect their play.
Venom gasps at the gun. The mask pulls back, revealing
second
Eddie's
down
face.
now.
And Null
It's
looks at
Elliott.
his smile. I'm sorry, there seems to be a bit of confusion.
And he's taken down, but able to slip across the 35. 3 quarters have come and gone.
Fear
This
fills
is the
Eddie as he
National
begs the
Football
gods to leave
League
his son
on
alone
EA
to take him
Sports.
instead, and Null reaches out, ripping Venom off of Eddie's body. No, I will take my child from you, and then I will take yours. He tells him with a vicious grin, and with that, he releases Eddie.
So
and
after a
sends
good
him
run by
plummeting
Zeke,
back
another
down to
1st
the
and
Citadel.
10.
A
Now
nearby
a handoff here
helicopter
to his
watches
running
as
back.
Eddie plummets
And he'll
from the
lose
dark.
yardage on the play
Venom
back at
struggles
the
down
37-yard line.
Now
Officially,
Venom
it's a
goes
1-yard
for
loss.
this.
That's going to bring up 2nd and 11.
Sometimes you just sit back and marvel at what he can do defensively. Speed, strength, quickness, he's the whole package. And that package just wrapped up the runner
But
for
Null
a
turns away as
loss.
Venom is brought into him. Dragons fly in the distance as
Good
Eddie
deed.
Here's a second down throw that's knocked
He doesn't want to
away
die alone.
and
Time
incomplete.
seems to slow as he
Receiver
falls to
coaches
the earth.
preach to their guys all the time. Separation, that's what's
going
going to make the play successful.
He
That
knows
time
he
there was
hasn't
very
spoken to
little,
God
and I
in a
think they
while,
were actually
but he asks
fortunate
for one
that it was
thing.
only knocked
Please,
away and not
make sure
intercepted.
my son is
The
okay.
Cowboys
He
on
doesn't
3rd
deserve to be
down.
hurt by
They've only
darkness.
converted once in 4 tries.
Around the city,
This
the
is
Peter
3rd and
heroes continue
11.
to fight, but the
Now
monsters, there are
Prescott.
too many. Beneath the city, Dylan gets on the
And
radio.
this is caught.
Iron Man here, what's going on?
And they're going to have another 1st down as he's going to be tackled at the Browns' 38-yard line.
His defense certainly had an
Tony
outstanding
demands.
second half.
Dylan
They
hesitates
really
for
just
a
gave him
moment.
a first
And
down
Tony
there
says,
for the offense.
I'm going to
They're
kill
hoping that that's
Spider-Man.
something that they can jumpstart.
He tells the
Maybe
boys to
start to
turn on the
move the
news
ball.
and keep the
I'm supposed to get that block.
Sliding for here the entire second half.
That's going to wind up a loss of a full 3 yards on first down. After seeing that, maybe time to go back to some downfield throws here.
Yeah, anything, change it up, because the teams that win, the best teams, they're the ones that make adjustments. Doesn't mean you can't come back to what you thought you could get done. Sometimes when you open things up a little bit, you can get back.
Oh, no, he lost the football.
Damn.
Fortunate to get that football back.
That's fucked up.
Here in the second half, last thing they needed was to lose the possession.
And the word I think of here is opportunity, because it could have been lost there. Their chance to score points, but the opportunity for the defense was to go ahead and really close this game down if they were able to get possession.
Tumbling from wall to fire escape. His limbs are twisted, his bones shattered with every contact.
Third down, that pass knocked down in the backfield and incomplete.
We've seen this quite a few times in this game. Offensive line unable to keep leverage, unable to keep people away, facing a lot of pressure. Fortunate just to get rid of it.
One of the reasons they're down is that inability, though, to stop the pressure. We saw another example of it there. So they're forced to punt on fourth as this one's away. And this will be out of bounds at the what here? The 12-yard line.
This is the dropped present, and he's overcome the joy. He reaches for the neatly wrapped present, but then from the alleyway, the shadow of Null creeps over to him. The shadow attacks, causing Hulk to fall back and grab the light post. The lamppost snaps.
The Browns drive about to get started. Right now clinging to a one-score lead, Charles, and I think operating within that 4-minute offense with a little less than 4 minutes to go applies here, right?
It certainly does, and that means the playbook is still wide open.
And the shadow screams trying to get away with the Hulk. Grabs it and holds it tight.
They're going to gain yardage,
the shadow
how would you say, consistently, right? You don't need the big shots downfield, but make sure the clock continues to run. Pile up the first down, and the goal, end the game with your quarterback kneeling down at the end, and you still have the lead.
Second down, here's Chubb again. And he'll take this up only to about his 18-yard line. It'll be a pickup of a couple that leaves him with a 3rd and 3. A tight game like this, such a tough spot for the offense to be in. Even though they have the lead, Charles, back up so close to their goal line, they got to protect the football.
And that's when you have to take care of your team with play calling as well. Not a lot of misdirection, not a lot of counters, not a lot of plays where you have extra ball handling.
Good shit.
Tell them to take care of the ball and try to move forward.
97 yards on the ground for him now as he's gotten better, really, as nothing's going on. No doubt those are the types of carries they're looking for here, Charles. The lead in the fourth quarter. This is when coaches that have a reliable running game, they breathe a little easier on the sideline.
Yeah, they love the idea that they can take the air out of the football at this point of the game. That means they're really counting on that offensive line, counting on the runners, taking care of the football. Because you're going to tell your quarterback, hey, no time to be a hero. We're not going to throw it here. Just eat up that clock. You have the ball,
and then he takes out a can of hairspray and a lighter. He watches the shadow fade into nothing and begins to move the store. But as he walks by the directory, he has an idea. A few moments later,
they'll come up now, 2nd and 4 from the 31.
Gets his Christmas wish, but he gets to play with all the truth that you can never think.
They'll try and run some clock here as they keep it on the ground. And he's going to have a Browns first down as the tackle made at about the 43-yard line. And carries like that, that's how they're going to continue to salt this thing away here, Charles, in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, how about that? A new set of downs. Clock continues to move. No better way to close out a game than to tap those mastodons you have up front and say, guys, keep pounding them. Let's keep the ball, keep their offense on the sidelines.
What the hell happened?
Across the street,
Good game, good.
So the Browns in possession of the football here as we get you reset. They've got a second down now as they search for a way to get this one to the finish line. They go with Chubb on second down. They give him about 4 on the play, but he's marked short, so it'll be 3rd and about the length of the football. The recipe's pretty simple, I think, right? Just give your superstar the ball, continue to feed him.
Yeah, don't overthink this one, right? Make sure he's touching the football, but you're also counting on his intelligence in playing the game as well. If it's not there, don't force the run. Just make sure you hang on to the football and keep the clock ticking.
Together. Jessica and Danny
So
moving in
go,
an
Charles,
attacking future, but their energy doesn't seem to be doing enough damage. So Jessica turns back to Linda, telling her that she needs more serum that is keeping her
indeed, they will kick it on the
but also
ground.
making her
Stays
stronger
on his
and
feet.
angry.
Still
Against
fighting
Linda's
for
wishes,
more.
Jessica injects herself as she feels
Good shit, good shit.
as anger is swelling up inside of her. She launches herself at the creature, leaping onto its back. Get off my planet! She bellows as she hits the monster with everything that she has. The creature falls back to the ground, dead. But Jessica has already lost control and continues to pummel the creature. Her friends are rushed to her side trying to help and stop
And
her.
our score's
What
going to stay right
follows
where it is.
isn't important to the King in Black story.
Now he's back out there to boom this one away, maybe with some frustration after the PAT miss. And no return on this one as the fair catch is signaled for and taken.
Eddie! Spider-Man yells as he swings over to help his friend, and Brock is unresponsive as Peter begins to yell for help. But the city is under attack. No one is responding. Pete! Eddie gasps.
About set for this next drive by the Cowboys offense.
He tries to
And
state
hoping to do better than they did in their last possession when they punted the football.
Appeal to the vanity of your...
Oh, Prescott stripped.
A lot of bad news on that play for them, wasn't there?
That's game. Good looking. Good shit, cuz. I'm about to lay it down, man.
Ways able to retain possession. That was big.
I catch you on the rebound.
Peter ducks fast as an energy beam shoots over his head. Oh God, he didn't kill him.
It's
He
on.
made them into his army. Spider-Man shouts as he looks over his shoulder.